In a quiet suburban neighborhood, everything seemed calm on the surface. The streets were lined with neat houses, all painted in soft pastel colors, with well-trimmed lawns and colorful flower beds. It was the kind of place where families felt safe. Children played outside in the evenings, and neighbors greeted each other with friendly smiles. The community had rules about how houses should look, how lawns should be maintained, and even how cars should be parked. These rules were set by the Homeowners Association, or HOA, which was meant to keep the neighborhood looking nice and orderly. For most residents, these rules were just part of living there, something to follow without much fuss. But for the husband and wife at the center of this story, the HOA rules would soon become a source of growing tension. The husband, whose past was known only to a few close friends, had a very different life before moving into the neighborhood. He was a retired Navy SEAL, someone who had spent years training for the toughest missions in the world. The skills he learned were extraordinary. He could stay calm in the most dangerous situations, think clearly under pressure, and act quickly to protect those he cared about. But after his military career, he wanted nothing more than a peaceful life. He and his wife chose this neighborhood because it seemed quiet and safe, a place where they could settle down and enjoy life without drama. He kept his past a secret, not because he was hiding anything, but because he wanted to live a normal life. He rarely talked about his Navy days, and even his wife only knew a little. The wife was very different in personality. She was confident, outspoken, and fiercely independent. She loved their home and wanted it to be perfect, but she wasn't afraid to stand up for what she believed was right. She took pride in their garden, and often spent hours making sure their house looked beautiful. She cared deeply about the neighborhood and the people who lived there, and she didn't hesitate to speak her mind when she thought something was unfair. But her boldness sometimes brought her into conflict with the HOA enforcers. The HOA itself was run by a small group of people who took their roles very seriously. Some might say, too seriously. They were known for being strict, and their enforcers had a reputation for being aggressive when it came to enforcing the rules. They walked around the neighborhood like officials on patrol, ready to issue fines or warnings at the slightest perceived violation. Even small things like a slightly overgrown bush or a car parked a few inches over the line could lead to angry letters or visits from these enforcers. Some residents tried to avoid conflict by following the rules exactly, but others felt the HOA's demands were unreasonable and unfair. At first, the husband and wife tried to stay out of trouble. They followed the main rules and didn't want to get involved in the neighborhood politics. But the wife's nature made that difficult. She believed in fairness and honesty, and when she saw the enforcers acting harshly or unfairly toward neighbors, she spoke up. Sometimes she wrote letters to the HOA board asking for explanations or changes in rules that seemed outdated. Sometimes she talked directly to the enforcers, trying to reason with them. But the enforcers didn't like being challenged. They saw her as a troublemaker, someone who didn't respect their authority. Slowly, small conflicts began to build. It started with minor things, like a complaint about the color of her garden fence, which the HOA said didn't match the neighborhood's standards, or a warning about the number of plants she had on her front porch, which the HOA claimed blocked the sidewalk too much. These complaints might have seemed silly to some, but they added up and created frustration. The wife felt the enforcers were targeting her unfairly, and the husband could see the stress it was causing her. Despite his calm exterior, he worried about how far this conflict might go. The neighbors watched these interactions with mixed feelings. Some sympathized with the wife, admiring her courage to stand up to the enforcers. Others thought she was making trouble where there wasn't any and preferred to stay quiet. The HOA enforcers, meanwhile, seemed more determined to show that they were in control. Their aggressive style made many people afraid to speak out, even when they felt the rules were too strict. This created a tense atmosphere in the neighborhood, where beneath the peaceful streets, worries and resentments grew. Meanwhile, The husband continued to keep his past carefully hidden. He didn't want to bring attention to himself or cause more drama. He knew that his training as a Navy SEAL made him different, that he had skills and experience that could change how things might end. But for now, he remained quiet, watching, carefully and waiting for the right moment. He supported his wife, always ready to protect her if needed, but also hoping they could resolve things without violence. Life in the neighborhood carried on like this for weeks. The couple tried to enjoy their home, but the constant pressure from the HOA enforcers made it difficult. Every letter or warning felt like a new battle. The wife's patience wore thin, and she grew more determined to fight back. The husband noticed the change in her mood and worried about what could happen next. Deep inside, he prepared himself mentally, remembering the lessons from his Navy days. Stay alert, stay calm, and protect what you love. What made this story different was not just the conflict between a family and the HOA, but the hidden strength behind the husband's calm face. The retired Navy SEAL had faced real dangers, combat situations where lives were on the line. Here, in this suburban neighborhood, the stakes seemed smaller, but the challenge was no less serious. The safety and dignity of his wife were at risk, and he was ready to stand strong when the time came. As the tension grew, the neighborhood changed. The friendly greetings became less common, replaced by wary glances. The feeling of community started to fade, replaced by suspicion and fear. But the husband and wife remained connected, supporting each other through the difficult days. They knew that whatever happened next could change their lives forever. In these peaceful streets, beneath the calm surface, a storm was quietly gathering, one that would soon erupt in a way no one expected. The day started like any other in the quiet suburban neighborhood. The sun was shining softly, birds were chirping in the trees, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. But beneath this peaceful scene, tensions were about to explode in a way no one expected. The wife was outside, tending to her garden as she often did, her hands working carefully to prune the flowers and trim the bushes. She loved these moments of calm, finding peace in the simple task of caring for their home. But little did she know, today would be a day that changed everything. Earlier, she had received a notice from the HOA enforcers. It was about a small issue, a minor violation they claimed she had committed. They said that a decorative item in her yard was not allowed because it did not meet the HOA's strict guidelines. It was a garden statue she had placed near the flower bed, something she thought was beautiful and harmless. To her, it was a symbol of their home and the happiness they shared. But the HOA saw it differently. They said it was not in harmony with the neighborhood aesthetic and demanded that she remove it immediately. She had tried to explain to the HOA board that this was a personal choice, a way to make their house feel like home. She had sent polite letters and even spoken at community meetings, asking for a little understanding and flexibility. But the HOA enforcers were firm and unyielding. They believed that the rules were there for a reason, and no one was above them. For them, enforcing these rules was a matter of authority and control. On this day, the enforcers came to her house in person. Two men, wearing the HOA badges clearly visible on their shirts, approached the front yard. They carried clipboards, their faces serious and uninviting. The wife was surprised but not afraid. She had dealt with them before and was ready to stand her ground if needed. The conversation started calmly. The enforcers told her again that the statue had to go. They cited specific HOA regulations and warned her about fines if she did not comply. The wife listened carefully but refused to back down. She explained why the statue was important to her and asked if there was any way they could make an exception. She spoke respectfully but firmly, showing she knew her rights and was willing to fight for them. But the enforcers were not interested in discussion. One of them, a man with a harsh voice and sharp eyes, began to raise his tone. He told her she was being difficult and that the HOA had no room for negotiation. The other enforcer stood silently but looked ready to back his partner, The wife's heart began to beat faster, but she stayed calm, determined not to let them intimidate her. Suddenly, the situation took a dangerous turn. The harsher enforcer stepped closer, invading her personal space. His voice became louder, more aggressive. He told her to remove the statue immediately or face consequences. The wife told him to step back and that she would not tolerate being threatened. This angered the enforcer even more. Without warning, he grabbed her arm roughly. The wife gasped, shocked by the sudden violence. She tried to pull away, but the enforcer held tight. The other enforcer stepped forward but did not intervene to stop his partner. The wife's neighbors, watching from their windows and porches, were frozen in shock. No one dared to step outside or speak up, afraid of what might happen next. In that moment, the wife's world turned upside down. She felt fear and anger rush through her. The man who was supposed to enforce rules and keep peace was now hurting her. She shouted for help, hoping someone would come to her rescue. But the street was eerily silent, the usual chatter replaced by tense quiet. Her phone was in her pocket, and with great effort she managed to pull it out and dial her husband's number. Her voice trembled as she told him what was happening, her words rushed and desperate. The husband, who was inside the house, heard her cry for help and instantly knew this was serious. His years of military training kicked in. He didn't waste a second. He grabbed his keys and rushed outside, his mind clear and focused despite the shock. He could see the two men near his wife, and he noticed the harsh grip one had on her arm. The calm and peaceful neighborhood suddenly felt like a battlefield. His heart pounded, but his face showed no fear. Instead, there was a quiet intensity, the kind that only someone who has faced danger many times before could show. As he approached, he called out to the men, telling them to let his wife go. The enforcers turned to face him, surprised to see someone coming so fast and so confident. The husband's presence alone changed the atmosphere. The enforcers had no idea who they were dealing with. He stepped between the men and his wife, carefully, positioning himself to protect her. He didn't raise his voice or make threats, but his body language was firm and commanding. He told the enforcers that their behavior was unacceptable and that they needed to leave immediately. His calm but powerful voice left no room for argument. The wife, still shaken but relieved, took a step back behind her husband. She felt safe now, knowing he was there to protect her. The neighbors who had been watching began to emerge from their homes, some whispering quietly, others just staring in disbelief. The enforcers, now facing a man they didn't recognize but clearly respected, hesitated. Seeing that the situation was no longer in their favor, the enforcers muttered something about following the rules and walked away, their heads low. But the damage was done. The wife had been hurt, both physically and emotionally, and the couple's peaceful life had been shattered. Inside, the husband checked his wife for injuries, gently wiping away tears and reassuring her. He told her they would not let this go unnoticed. His mind was already racing with plans, not just for their safety but for justice. The couple knew this was just the beginning of a long fight. The enforcers thought they could bully the wife because they underestimated the man behind her. News of the assault spread quickly through the neighborhood. Some residents expressed sympathy and support for the couple, while others whispered about the risk of angering the powerful HOA. The husband, however, refused to back down. He started gathering evidence, photos, videos from neighbors' security cameras, and written accounts from witnesses. He contacted local law enforcement to report the assault and sought legal advice on how to hold the HOA accountable. His military background gave him the skills to plan carefully and act decisively. He knew that this was not just about one incident, but about standing up against a system that had grown too powerful and abusive. Meanwhile, the wife found strength in her husband's support and in the quiet encouragement of neighbors who wanted change. Though shaken, she was determined to help bring an end to the intimidation and violence. Together, They began to organize community meetings to discuss the HOA's behavior and explore ways to protect residents' rights. The husband's calm leadership and clear strategy inspired others. People started to come forward with their own stories of unfair treatment and bullying by the HOA. What had seemed like isolated complaints now became a united movement. The couple's bravery sparked hope in the neighborhood, a chance to take back control and create a safer, fairer community. Through it all, the husband's experience as a Navy SEAL remained a powerful force behind their efforts. His ability to remain composed in crisis, think ahead, and stand firm gave the couple confidence and strength. The enforcers had made a grave mistake by underestimating him. The incident with the wife was a turning point, a moment when quiet frustration turned into action. It was a reminder that even in the most peaceful places, injustice can exist, and it takes courage to fight back. For this couple, their fight was not just about a garden statue or neighborhood rules. It was about protecting their dignity, safety, and the future of their community. As the days passed, the tension in the neighborhood grew, but so did the resolve of those who wanted change. The husband and wife became symbols of resistance against bullying and abuse. They showed that no matter how powerful the opposition, standing together and standing strong could make a difference. The story of that fateful day, the assault by the HOA enforcers, was told and retold. It was a story of unexpected violence, in a quiet place, of courage rising from pain, and of a retired Navy SEAL who refused to let his wife suffer in silence. This moment set the stage for the next chapter in their fight, where the quiet neighborhood would never be the same again. After the shocking incident where the HOA enforcers had assaulted his wife, the retired Navy SEAL's calm exterior hid a storm of emotions. He was deeply angry, but his military training taught him the importance of patience and strategy. He knew that rushing into a fight without a plan would only make things worse. So instead of reacting with immediate violence, he focused on gathering information, understanding the situation fully, and preparing a way to protect his family and fight back effectively. The first thing he did was to make sure his wife was safe and cared for. He checked her injuries carefully, helping her with first aid and comforting her. But he also knew that the assault could not be ignored. It was not only a personal attack, but also a sign of how far the HOA enforcers were willing to go to keep control. This was more than just a small neighborhood conflict. It was about power, respect, and justice. He began by collecting evidence. He asked neighbors who had witnessed the incident to write down what they saw. Some had security cameras installed on their houses, and he requested copies of any footage that showed the event or the enforcer's behavior. He took photos of his wife's injuries and kept all the written warnings and notices the HOA had sent. This careful documentation would be important later if the case went to court or the police got involved. Next, he reached out to the local police. Although the HOA was a private organization, assault was a crime that the police could investigate. He reported the incident, providing all the evidence he had collected. The police listened carefully, and the retired SEAL explained the situation, calmly and clearly, showing the seriousness of the attack. The police promised to look into it and encouraged him to keep records of any further incidents. At the same time, he contacted a lawyer who specialized in HOA disputes and personal injury cases. The lawyer explained the legal options available, including suing the HOA for assault and harassment, as well as requesting a restraining order against the enforcers involved. The retired SEAL was grateful for the advice, but understood that legal battles could take time and energy. He needed to prepare for a long fight. While the legal process was being set up, he also worked on rebuilding trust and unity within the neighborhood. Many residents had been quietly suffering under the harsh rules and aggressive tactics of the HOA, but no one had dared to speak out openly. The retired SEAL began organizing meetings with neighbors who shared concerns. He used his leadership skills to bring people together, encouraging them to share their experiences and support one another. These meetings were a turning point. For the first time, many residents realized they were not alone. They heard stories of unfair fines, threats, and intimidation from the HOA. The retired SEAL's calm and confident presence gave them hope. He explained that standing together was their best chance to change things and hold the HOA accountable. The community began to organize more formally. They formed a neighborhood association independent of the HOA, aiming to represent residents' interests fairly. They planned to attend HOA board meetings in groups, ask tough questions, and demand transparency. The retired SEAL took on a leadership role, using his ability to stay calm under pressure and communicate clearly to guide the group. Throughout this time, the husband kept a close eye on the HOA enforcers. He watched their movements and actions, making sure they didn't try to intimidate his wife or others again. His training helped him notice small details, how the enforcers behaved when they thought no one was watching, and when they might try to use force again. This vigilance made the neighborhood safer and gave others confidence that they were being protected. One day, the husband received word that the HOA planned to hold a special meeting to discuss the complaints against them. This was an opportunity for the community to confront the board directly. The retired SEAL prepared carefully. He helped draft a list of questions and concerns to present. He encouraged neighbors to attend in large numbers and support each other. When the meeting day arrived, the community showed up in force. The retired SEAL spoke first, calmly and clearly explaining what had happened to his wife and how the enforcers had abused their power. He presented the evidence they had collected, including photos, videos, and witness statements. The room was tense as everyone listened. The HOA board members tried to defend their actions, but the growing support for the community made it clear that things were changing. The meeting ended with the board promising to review their enforcement practices and consider reforms. But the retired SEAL knew promises were not enough. He remained determined to keep pushing for justice and fairness. He continued to work with the lawyer to prepare for any legal actions necessary. During this time, the husband's military skills proved invaluable. He used his experience in planning, communication, and leadership to keep the community focused and united. He organized training sessions on how to document incidents properly, how to communicate effectively with authorities, and how to stay safe during confrontations. He also made sure his wife felt supported and empowered. He reminded her of her strength and bravery. Together, they spoke at community events, sharing their story to inspire others not to be afraid to stand up for their rights. As the weeks went by, the neighborhood slowly began to change. The aggressive behavior of the HOA enforcers decreased, as they realized they were being watched and held accountable. The couple's fight became a symbol of courage and resistance in the community. More people joined the movement, and the demand for fairness grew louder. Despite the challenges, the retired Navy SEAL remained calm and focused. His past experiences in difficult missions taught him that victory required patience, preparation, and teamwork. He knew this battle would take time, but he was ready for whatever came next. The husband and wife's story spread beyond their neighborhood, catching the attention of local media. Reporters interviewed them, highlighting the struggle between residents and powerful HOAs. Their courage inspired other communities facing similar problems to speak out and fight back. Through it all, the couple stayed united. Their love and trust in each other grew stronger, and their determination to protect their home and community never wavered. The retired SEAL's quiet strength and steady leadership showed everyone that true power comes not from intimidation, but from courage, justice, and standing together. In the end, the husband's decision to act with wisdom and strategy, rather than anger, made all the difference. It turned a personal tragedy into a community victory, proving that even in the face of unfairness and violence, calm and courage can bring hope and change. After the couple's courageous stand against the HOA enforcers and the community's growing resistance, the atmosphere in the neighborhood had changed. What was once a quiet, almost silent place where people endured strict and unfair rules, in fear had now begun to buzz with conversation, hope, and a new sense of unity. But with change comes challenges, and the couple soon realized that their fight was far from over. In fact, the battle was entering a new, even more intense phase. The HOA board and enforcers were not happy about losing their grip on the neighborhood. They had enjoyed a position of control for years, deciding what was allowed and what was not, issuing fines and threats, and expecting everyone to obey without question. Now, faced with a united community demanding fairness and respect, they felt threatened. They started looking for ways to push back, to intimidate the couple and their supporters, and to regain their power. One day the wife received another letter from the HOA. This one was different from the previous warnings and fines. It accused her of disrupting the peace and harassing HOA members. The letter warned that if she did not stop her activism and involvement in community meetings, she would face serious penalties, including hefty fines and possible legal action. The tone was harsh and threatening, designed to scare her into silence. The wife showed the letter to her husband. They both knew that the HOA was trying to silence her, to punish her for standing up to them. But instead of backing down, they became more determined. The husband reminded his wife that intimidation was a common tactic used by bullies who knew they were losing. He told her that standing up for what was right was never easy, but it was necessary. The couple decided to respond by being even more visible and vocal. They organized more neighborhood meetings and invited local leaders and journalists to attend. The husband used his experience to help create clear, respectful, and powerful messages that explained the community's demands and the problems caused by the HOA's abuse of power. They made flyers and posters, shared their story on social media, and encouraged others to speak out. As the couple stepped forward, some neighbors who had been silent before began to share their own stories of unfair treatment. A woman talked about being fined for planting flowers without approval. A man told how his car was ticketed for parking a few inches outside the line. And an elderly couple explained how they had been threatened for putting up holiday decorations early. These stories created a strong sense of solidarity. Everyone realized they were part of a larger problem, and together they could make a difference. The husband and wife's leadership became a symbol of hope. They showed that it was possible to fight against powerful organizations and stand up for one's rights. But they also knew they had to protect themselves. The threats from the HOA were real, and the couple took extra precautions. The husband installed security cameras around their property and kept a close watch on any suspicious activity. They talked to neighbors about forming a watch group to look out for each other and report any intimidation or harassment. One evening, the husband noticed two unfamiliar men walking slowly through the neighborhood, stopping to look at houses and speaking quietly to each other. He recognized the style of the men. They looked like private security or hired enforcers. His instincts told him they might be there to intimidate residents or gather information for the HOA. He immediately warned his wife and neighbors. They kept a close eye on the men and reported their presence to the police. The officers came to investigate but found no immediate proof of wrongdoing. Still, the couple knew this was a warning, a message that the HOA was willing to use private forces to scare people. Despite the pressure, the community's spirit did not break. In fact, the adversity brought them closer. The neighborhood watch group grew, and residents began to feel safer knowing they had each other's backs. The couple's leadership helped maintain this unity. They encouraged people to stay peaceful but firm, to document everything, and to always respond with dignity. Meanwhile, the husband worked closely with their lawyer to prepare for the legal battle ahead. They filed complaints about the assault and harassment and began the process of suing the HOA for damages. The legal documents laid out how the HOA enforcers had abused their power, attacked the wife, and tried to silence the family. The lawsuit was a warning to the HOA that their actions had consequences. The HOA board responded by hiring their own lawyers and preparing to fight back. They accused the couple of causing trouble and disrupting the community. The neighborhood was divided, with some people still supporting the HOA out of fear or loyalty, while others stood firmly with the couple. The tension was high, and every community meeting felt like a battlefield. But the husband's steady presence kept the discussions focused on facts and fairness. He reminded everyone that their goal was not to create enemies, but to build a better, kinder neighborhood where rules were fair and respected by all. During this time, the husband and wife also faced personal challenges. The stress of the conflict affected their daily lives. They had less time for hobbies and socializing, and the constant worry about safety took a toll. But they leaned on each other for support, finding strength in their shared commitment. One memorable night, the wife received a threatening phone call. A disguised voice warned her to stop speaking out or face worse consequences. She was frightened but immediately called her husband. Together, they reported the call to the police and their lawyer. The incident strengthened their resolve, making them even more determined to fight back. Their story attracted attention beyond the neighborhood. Local news stations covered the conflict, interviewing the couple and some neighbors. The media attention put pressure on the HOA board and helped raise awareness about the power some associations wield and the need for reform. With the community's growing support and the legal case moving forward, the couple began to see small victories. The HOA was forced to back down on some of its stricter enforcement policies. Some enforcers were reassigned or removed after complaints. The HOA board agreed to hold public meetings with residents, allowing more transparency and dialogue. These wins were encouraging, but the couple knew the fight was far from over. The HOA still held significant power and could cause problems. The husband continued to prepare for all possible outcomes, including more legal battles or the need to protect his family physically. Throughout this difficult time, the husband's past as a Navy SEAL remained a quiet but powerful influence. He used the discipline, strategic thinking, and calm under pressure he learned in the military to guide their actions. His ability to lead without anger or fear inspired others. The wife, once a victim of assault and intimidation, became a leader in her own right. Her courage and voice helped many others find theirs. Together, they became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that standing up for justice is worth the struggle. In the end, the neighborhood was never the same again. The battle between the residents and the HOA revealed how important it was to have rules that protect everyone fairly and to challenge systems that abuse their power. The husband and wife's story showed that even ordinary people, when united and determined, can stand up to powerful forces and create change. Their journey was long and hard, filled with moments of fear, hope, and strength. But they proved that courage, love, and unity could overcome intimidation and injustice, making their community a better place for everyone. After months of conflict, tension, and struggle, the couple and their community had reached a critical point. The fight against the HOA was no longer just about one family or a few residents. It had become a symbol of courage, justice, and the power of ordinary people standing up against unfairness. But the final chapter of this battle was still to be written. The couple knew that winning in court was important, but it was also essential to rebuild the neighborhood's sense of peace and trust. The scars from the past fights, the fear of intimidation, and the anger still ran deep in many hearts. So, alongside the legal battle, the husband and wife focused on healing and moving forward. The court case had taken months to prepare. The husband's careful documentation, the lawyer's expertise, and the testimonies from neighbors created a strong case. They proved how the HOA enforcers had not only attacked the wife, but had consistently abused their power to intimidate and control residents unfairly. During the trial, the retired Navy SEAL remained calm and confident. He gave clear, honest testimony about the assault and the events that followed. His military discipline showed in his ability to speak without anger, but with strong conviction. His wife also spoke bravely, sharing her experience and the fear she had endured. Their courage impressed the judge and jury. Many neighbors attended the trial, showing support and sharing their own stories. Their testimonies made it clear that the couple's fight was part of a larger pattern of abuse. This unity helped to convince the court that the HOA's actions were wrong and harmful. After careful consideration, the court ruled in favor of the couple and the community. The HOA was ordered to pay damages for the assault and harassment, and to change its enforcement policies immediately. The judge required the HOA to establish clear, fair rules and to create an independent review board that included neighborhood residents. This board would ensure transparency and fairness going forward. The victory was a major relief and a powerful message. It showed that even powerful organizations could be held accountable when they crossed the line. But the couple and their neighbors knew the real work was just beginning. They had to rebuild trust and a sense of community that had been broken by years of fear and division. The husband and wife worked tirelessly with neighbors to create a new vision for their neighborhood. They encouraged open communication and mutual respect. They organized community events like picnics, cleanup days, and holiday celebrations to bring people together. Slowly, the walls of fear and suspicion started to come down. One of the most important changes was the formation of the new neighborhood association. Unlike the HOA, this group was led by residents, elected fairly and focused on listening to everyone's concerns. The retired Navy SEAL and his wife helped train leaders in conflict resolution and fair decision-making. Their military and leadership experience became a valuable resource. As the community healed, the couple also focused on their own personal recovery. The wife took time to heal emotionally and physically from the assault. She found strength in therapy, support groups, and the love of her husband. The husband, too, learned to relax and enjoy life beyond the fight. They rediscovered hobbies they had set aside and made new memories together. The story of their fight spread beyond their neighborhood, inspiring other communities facing similar problems. They were invited to speak at meetings, share their experience on local radio shows, and write articles about the importance of standing up to unfair power. Their courage encouraged others to take action and demand justice. Despite their victory, the couple remained humble. They knew that no battle was ever truly over and that fairness required constant effort. They continued to watch over their community and support neighbors in need. Their story was a reminder that change takes time and patience, but that anyone can make a difference. The retired Navy SEAL's discipline and calm leadership, combined with his wife's courage and determination, had transformed their neighborhood. What started as a violent attack became a movement for justice, fairness, and unity. The neighborhood was no longer ruled by fear, but by respect and cooperation. Looking back, the couple realized that their greatest strength was their love and partnership. Together, they had faced danger, fear, and opposition, and had come out stronger. Their bond inspired others and proved that even the toughest challenges could be overcome with courage and teamwork. In the end, the story was about more than just an HOA fight. It was about standing up for what is right, protecting those you love, and believing in the power of community. The retired Navy SEAL and his wife showed that when people unite, no force, no matter how powerful, can break their spirit. Their neighborhood had been changed forever, not just by laws or court decisions, but by the strength of the human heart and the courage to fight for justice. This lasting legacy was the true victory, one that would inspire generations to come.